Okay, good morning everybody, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're out in this beautiful country or world of ours. This is Marc, the Intuitive Prospector, here in Seattle, Washington for another live episode of Metaphysical Mocha Mondays with Marc. As you can see, it's very sunny in Seattle, so I will take it. I apologize, we were having some technical difficulties, and actually I couldn't get my phone to actually start broadcasting. So, going to be talking this morning about community, about building things and not building walls. So first and foremost, good morning to you. Thanks for joining. If you're new to the Om Times Institute page, please check it out. There's a lot of great stuff that we're doing here on Om Times, whether it's the Om Times Institute page, the Om Times Magazine, the Om Times Radio Network, where I have my show Inspired Living Radio every Wisdom Wednesday at 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. And you know, it's a lot of spiritual work, it's a lot of metaphysics, it's a lot of mindfulness, it's a lot of soul searching, higher consciousness, that type of work. But I just want to thank you for being here this morning, bearing with me on the technical difficulties. Like I said, I was trying to broadcast, and for some reason my phone was putting me sideways, so I was like this, and that's pretty tough to watch for 30 minutes. So this is Metaphysical Mocha Mondays with Marc, here every Monday morning at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we just have a spiritual conversation. We have a spiritual chat. We talk about what's going on in the world. And this morning, I wanted to talk about, it's an old Nigerian proverb, and it talks about in the moment of crisis, the wise build bridges and the foolish build dams. And that's so relevant today. So I wanted to have a discussion about that. I went to Hamilton, the play, last Wednesday. It was a phenomenal play. So if you ever have a chance to see Hamilton, highly recommend it. But it's the struggles of 200 years ago, 240 plus years ago, I guess, are still relevant today. And it talked about, I'm not going to get into politics here, but it talked about the struggles of, you know, just because you win a war, governing is actually harder than actually winning the war or dying to win the war. And they talked about how governing is very tough. And I'm just seeing a lot of separation, specifically here in the United States. So I wanted to talk about, you know, when there's a moment of crisis, that we come together and that, you know, the wise, the observers, build bridges. They build community. They bring people together. And the foolish, you know, they tend to build barriers. They tend to build dams. They tend to build walls. And that's not what our country was founded on. So this morning I want to be just bring a conscious conversation, a common sense conversation about bringing people together. And again, it's an old Nigerian proverb. And what inspired me, actually, what caught my attention, because you know, every Monday morning I'm not sure what it is I'm going to be speaking about. And I like to address current things. I like to address what's going on in our world. And I went to Black Panther, and there was that quote was actually used. So it was just like, you know, the Times, it's a good quote to have about, in the moment of crisis, we build bridges and the foolish build dams. And we don't want to build dams. We don't want to be the foolish. So let me know where you're from. Let me know if you're just joining in. Go ahead and put a comment in the section below, and I will come back after the video. If you like to share out, please do share out to like-minded individuals. Share out to like-minded communities. We grow the page via the grassroots. We don't advertise, we don't market. So if you could help me out in sharing, that would be great. I'm going to go ahead and put a link in the comment section for you. So immediately following this show of Metaphysical Mocha Mondays, I have the Q&A after show, and that is over on my Intuitive Prospector page. I'm going to go ahead and put the link in right now, and that will take you directly to the Intuitive Prospector business page. That is my business page, and it's there where I'll have a direct conversation with you, answer questions, have a spiritual conversation, pull a card for you if you need it, do some readings, give you some spiritual guidance, because that's my role. You know, my role is to be an inspirer, to be a teacher, to be a student as well. Life is all about learning. The learning never stops. But just thank you this morning for being here. I see some names popping up. Good morning to all of you. And again, if you want to join me for the Q&A after show, the link is now in the comment section. with the Q&A after show with Marc on the Intuitive Prospector page. I hope that you'll join me. But since you're joining me here for the live show, grab your coffee, grab your tea. I've got my new Star Wars cup. It's got Chewie, it's got Poe, it's got Rey, it's got BB-8. I got it for Valentine's Day, so I figured I should show it off. But this morning we're talking about, in the moment of crisis, the wise build bridges and the foolish build dams. And that's a Nigerian proverb. And for me, it just, one of the things that I did, there's a lot that's happening in the United States, to be honest with you. And one of the things that I did is I put a post out just trying to have a discussion about Second Amendment rights, the Constitution. It was just amazing to see how polarized and how divided our country is. And one of the things that I did as a case study, just to see how divided we are as a country, because everybody has their beliefs, right? And there are real facts, but then there are your facts. What are your facts based on the actual facts? And what it does is it causes a divide between people. And one of the quotes that stands out in my mind is from Abraham Lincoln, who was a very wise, intelligent man of his time. And imagine trying to be the president of a country that's going through a civil war. And he talked about that a house divided cannot stand. And I just see it with the tragedy of the school shootings that continue, that stay the course. This Parkland shooting in Florida, it's just a horrible. It's a senseless act of violence that doesn't need to take place in our modern day, in our modern world, and in the richest country in the world. That should not be taking place. But it's just amazing how different the perspectives are and how different the conversations can be. And the one picture that I put up as just having a debate and a discussion, because I've always been taught that it's better to communicate and to debate and to compromise and to come to a consensus so you can move forward. And we're not seeing that in our country. We're not moving forward. We're divided. And add on top of that, you take the 13 indictments against another country that has penetrated in an act of war. In my, somebody that raised his hand to defend the Constitution of the United States, and as a constitutionalist myself, in fact, I have the Constitution of the United States right here, and as an independent, it's very concerning to me because the tactics, don't take my word for it, research, do your own research, make your own analysis, come to your own conclusion. But for me, one of the tactics that was being used on these 13 indictments, which means it's a real deal, that means that it was actually done, it's no longer fake or rumored, we were attacked via cyber, and they've always said that the next war would come via cyber attack, and it's taking place then and it's taking place now. The scary thing for me is it happened in 2013 to lead up to our elections, and it's a tactic that's been used for well over 40 years. So if you study tactics and strategies, it's called reflective control, and it's something another country does. NATO actually calls it perception control theory. So research those, get an understanding of what reflexive control and what perceptive control theory are, because the goal is to divide people. The goal is to create two different narratives so people fight, and that's where you get into divide, you get into revolution, you get into people battling against one another. I'm not here today to tell you to battle. I'm not here to tell you to separate. I'm just the opposite. This is a show that's trying to bring people together to start engaging in conscious, common sense conversations and have some compromise on both sides of the spectrum. Whether you're far liberal or you're a far right conservative or somewhere in the middle. I always say whether you're the left wing, the right wing, it's all part of the same bird. But for the safety of our children, for the safety of our society, we need to really break this cycle of chaos that continues on and innocent people that die. So this show is dedicated to having a mindfulness, a mindset of when we're in a moment of crisis, one, try to be the observer and not react based on what you're seeing. And, it talks about how the wise build bridges and the foolish build dams. I choose to be of the wise mentality and try to build bridges and try to have conversation. And, that's what today's show is about. Because I do feel like we're in a state of crisis, specifically here in the United States. We've got a lot of different perceptions, a lot of different viewpoints. A lot of what some people would say facts, other people would say those are not facts, those are fake news. That's a very scary place to be, and if you know your history, learn from your history, because if we don't learn from it, we are usually meant to repeat it. We don't want to repeat it. But also what got me thinking about this during meditation this morning, and this Nigerian proverb that talks about, in the moment of crisis, the wise build bridges and the foolish build dams. We're in a 2018 year from a numerology standpoint. So I like to forecast and look at the year ahead based on numbers. And now this number of 2018 is a master number. It's an 11 year in numerology. And what that means is it's a universal year, that there's going to be some big things that take place. There's still more to come, guys, for this forecast, especially if you're in the United States. There's more to come. And the universal year but is also a year of becoming a peacemaker year. How do we get to a place where both sides feel like they're being heard and peace is being generated? Now, here's the difference with this Parkland shooting, which is a tragedy in itself. You had 3 teachers that were killed, 14, 15, and 14 children, teenagers that were killed, and then, other people that were injured by one person using an AR-15. And that's horrible. It doesn't need to take place in today's society. And in the study of numerology, if we're going to get to a place where we come to terms and have a common sense conversation to benefit the whole, not the few, and that's where we're seeing too. There's just a few that are benefited from this, and people start rising, voicing their opinions, going to the polls to vote, whatever your vote would be, speaking to your local governor, your senator, your congressman, let your voice be heard. And what reminded me of that is back when I went and saw Hamilton on Wednesday, it was the same thing. People were debating over. They used to have gun draws for gosh sakes. If you disagreed with somebody, you'd challenge them to a draw with guns, with pistols. Take your 10 steps, turn around, and you had a choice to either shoot them or put your gun in the air just to alleviate that. I'm glad we don't have that now. But it's democracy is just as chaotic back then it is today. But we're dividing as a community, we're dividing as a people, and we want to see everybody start to come together and have movements like the Me Too movement, the Women's March, where we're not putting up with the status quo. We're not putting up and accepting things that are just tragic, just horrible. And and I can speak to this. People might be saying, they might already be opinionated about what I'm saying. I know what it's like to lose a member to a firearm. I've had a family member murdered by a firearm. I know that people don't kill. I know that guns don't kill people. People kill people. But I want to have a conversation where people can start coming together to better the equation for our children that go to schools. Because I have to say, growing up, when I went to school, I didn't have to worry about this and what the kids today are having to worry about. Because we usually just got in a fight, called it a day. There's always bullying. There's always but the standard of American society is starting to break down. There's been several reports about this. They're looking at, kids are having high anxiety because they don't want us to go to school. They're worried. Parents are worried. But the difference between the Sandy Hook shooting, which was another horrible tragedy, and the Parkland shooting are these kids who are on the verge of voting. They have a voice, and I wouldn't be surprised to see voices come together, rallies come together, and that is your right as a patriot, as a taxpayer, as a person of the United States, to come together and to voice your concern so things change. Because, Frederick Douglass talked about without great struggle, there is no progress. And so we're going through a great struggle right now of our times, and that's going to be the difference with this Parkland shooting. These kids are going to rise up and have a voice and call for change. And so I'm supporting them. I hope that they do, and I hope that we can come to a conscious, common sense conversation, politically, liberally, conservatively, where it's the safety of all people. And again, that's, in the moment of crisis, keep a cool head, keep a level head, because people do lose themselves in their belief system. And again, just because there are facts, it doesn't mean it's your facts, And then when somebody tries to defend their facts and another person defends their facts and get away from the facts in general. And again, the picture that I posted was a picture of an AR-15 and a picture of lawn darts, actual lawn darts that I played with when I was little. I used to have the actual metal darts, and lawn darts were actually banned in 1987 because one girl passed away. She was killed by a lawn dart in 1987, and so they banned the use of lawn darts. And so when I saw that picture, to me, in my mind, as a Second Amendment supporter, as a firearm carrier myself, I was like, things have to change. We need to start having a conscious, common sense conversation, because how is it that you have lawn darts that are banned in 1987 because one girl died, and you've got assault weapons, which I'm not saying take the assault weapons out of it altogether, police, organized militia, military, but the general public doesn't need assault weapons. It's not needed. And to start having that conversation for access, mental health, arming teachers to protect, because they're going to protect the 3 teachers that died in Parkland, protected their students anyway. They gave their lives. So there's a lot of things that we can have a discussion about, but it was just amazing when I put that post, how many negative comments came out. And I expected that, but I did that as a case study because I wanted to show and make a point how divided, how polarized this country is and how people are. Mostly in the United States, not so much in the world. Most of the world gets along, and the murder rate per capita is very, very low. So what is the difference in America? So today I wanted to have a conversation about bringing people together. What can you do locally to make a change? How can you get involved locally? And that's at the state level, your governor, your senator, your congressman. Make sure that you have a voice. You have a voice. That's what this country was founded on. If you get a chance to go to the play Hamilton, get a history lesson, read your books, get the Constitution of the United States, and read what the Constitution, what the Founding Fathers built this wonderful, amazing country on, because freedom is not free at the end of the day. Freedom was developed, and the American democracy is an experiment that has been successful for the last 240 plus years. Let's keep this experiment going. And again, when we're in a time of crisis, and this shooting, these indictments, this cyber warfare that's going on, that is a crisis. But we need to keep our cool heads prevail, and we need to keep our wits about ourselves. And in the moment of the crisis, we build bridges, we don't build dams, we don't build barriers, and we definitely don't build walls. So one of the quotes I want to give you that comes from Martin Luther King Jr., and he talked about this. He said, "Let's build bridges, not walls." Martin Luther King Jr. Ralph Ellison talked about education is all a matter of building bridges. So get educated, get involved with the process of our history and our democracy and civic conversations about being involved in the country that you were born into and the freedoms that you have. It takes both sides to build a bridge. And that's what I wanted to talk about this morning, because I do feel like we're so divided. And as a humanitarian, as a spiritualist, I want us to start seeing us, both sides, regardless of what side you're on, come together and start building a bridge for the future. The future for our country, the future for our children, because we can still do amazing things. And, we build too many walls and not enough bridges, and I think we need to change that. So let me grab a drink of my coffee. Like I said, I'm going to switch it over to the Intuitive Prospector page for the Q&A after show, where you can ask me a question about this topic. But it just felt important that we need to bring people together for community, because that is what it's all about at the end of the day. I found that we have more things in common than we do not have in common. Most people have the same likes, dislikes. We do have a few differences between people, and that's warranted, and that's human nature. But we focus on how the little things that we're divided by, based on the things that bring us together. And like I said, 2018 is going to be a very interesting year. And I think that these kids at Parkland are going to have a voice, a new voice, because, you shot up a school with teenagers that are on the verge of voting. They're already speaking out. I know they're already talking about a rally on March 24th about having kids across the nation walk out of school until, leadership, Congress, take a stand to protect our children. Because if we don't protect our children, and we don't protect our education system, and we don't protect our institutions that founded this country, what the founding fathers believed in and the vision they had, this changes. This creates a vacuum, and when there's a vacuum, something usually not as nice and not as positive fills that vacuum. So I would challenge you to get involved, to have a voice, to vote, to make your voice heard by talking to your state legislators, your governors, write the president, write your congressman. Get involved, because I know it's hard, but Oprah was just talking about this. your voice and the voice of many can really make a change, and that vibration can really start. And again, in the moment of crisis where I feel like I feel like this is playing into 2018 as well. We want to build bridges, and the wise build bridges, the foolish build dams. So what do you want to be? Do you want to be the foolish building the dam, or do you want to be the wise building the bridge? The choice is always yours. Your greatest responsibility while you're here, and your greatest power while you're here, is free will and choice to make a difference. So I hope that you do. So today's totem animal spirit, just for the sake of time, because we did get started late, is the dog. Dog is man's best friend. So keep your faith strong no matter what is going on in your life. It's important for you to volunteer for something purely in the spirit of service. This country, there's many that gave their lives for this country and your freedoms. What are you doing to give back and celebrate the freedoms that you have? Because again, freedom is not free. There is a price that was paid for freedom. Remain determined and resolute even if you face some negative situations or disappointment. When you see the dog, that's a reminder to do just that. Show your love and appreciation in creative ways for those closest to you, and give your loyalty to those you love and cherish, just like the dog does for us. They love us unconditionally, they cherish us, and it doesn't have to be the dog, but that's the spirit animal I picked for today. The dog, the cat. Animals don't judge, they love us unconditionally, and they just want to be there for us. So why can't people do that for other people, and come together in community and come together and build bridges, not dams? The number for today is 27, which is also a 9 in numerology. Spiritual partnership. So find a spiritual partnership with somebody else. Smile at a stranger. Get involved in your local community. Volunteer. Get a spiritual connection to yourself, your higher self, and see how you can change how maybe you respond to what's going on in your external environment. And then the crystal for this week is sterilite, and it's a fairy cross. So it's believed to be formed from tears of the fairies shed when they heard of the news of Christ's death. So the crystal itself is based off of the crucifixion of Jesus. Traditionally, this protective stone is for good luck, but it also enhances and strengthens rituals and accesses to ancient wisdom. So it's called sterilite, Staurolite. It's brown, yellow, reddish brown. It comes from the United States, Russia, Middle East. And I picked that stone specifically because of where it comes, the United States and Russia. Sterilite, and it's a stone, again, called a fairy cross. So it tends to come into a shape of a cross for some reason. But it's access to ancient wisdom, and it is a protective stone. So check those out. Pay attention to your dog. Pay attention to your cat this week. Have some spiritual partnership with yourself, with others. Pay attention to the number 27 or the number 9 for your spiritual signs, symbols, and synchronistic events. I just want to thank you for today. Thanks for listening. Like I said, there's a lot going on in the world. There's a lot of different things coming from all different angles, and sometimes you just have to disconnect and take the time so you can reconnect to something bigger and better than yourself. But most importantly, in the moment of crisis, this is just a reminder and an inspiration that the wise build bridges and the foolish build dams. What do you choose to build? Where do you choose to put your energy? Where do you choose to put your the time that you have here in today? So thanks for today. I'll leave you with the Martin Luther King positive affirmation for this week. Say it if you can. Let's build bridges, not walls. Martin Luther King Jr., make that your positive affirmation for the week. And I'm going to head over to the Intuitive Prospector page. The link is down below if you'd like to join me to continue on this spiritual conversation, spiritual readings, cards. Just let me know how you're doing. Have a great rest of your week. Stay positive. And until our next soul adventure, be kind, be caring, be compassionate. Get involved. Make a change. And I'll see you next Monday for Metaphysical Mocha Mondays here on the Om Times Institute. All right, guys. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks for tuning in.